These are the Atari Flashback controller adapters, brought to us by Paul Nurmix. I don't know a whole lot about Paul. All I know about him is that he's one of the very gracious hosts of the Intellivisionaries podcast, which drops about once a quarter and is usually about 5 or 6 hours long, packed full of great content. He's also one of the hosts of the Intarivisions podcast, which is more of an adults-only rated podcast. I like to call him a sound engineer because he's also responsible for putting together many of the sounds and music remixes you hear on those podcasts. They really are wonderful and add a lot of value to their production. Paul goes by Nurmix in the Atari forums. Now, putting together these flashback adapters is a little side gig he's been doing ever since the Intellivision Flashback was released. The thought was, there are all these people with their Intellivision consoles, but no good way to replace those old, worn-down controllers. So why not try to use the brand new ones that come with the Flashback console? If you'd like to order a pair of these adapters, simply send an email to flashback@intellivisionaries.com. It's great to have this option available for Intellivision fans with worn-out controllers. This service is reasonably priced, and you get to choose between the original Intellivision adapters or the Intellivision 2 or Sears Super Videocade versions. You can learn all about them over at intellivisionaries.com/flashback. Now let's take a look at what you have to do to make these work in your Intellivision. So let's take a look at the Intellivision Flashback controller. So you see, if you bought an Intellivision Flashback console, it comes with two of these controllers, and you have to be able to plug these into an Intellivision. And that's what these adapters are for. So depending upon which Intellivision console you have, it needs to plug in, and then you can plug these. One end plugs into your console, and then the other end plugs into your controller. So it just depends on which Intellivision you have. Do you have the original Intellivision? You'll need these. Or do you have the newer Intellivision, the Sears Intellivision 2 or the Sears Video Arcade Intellivision? Then you'll use these. And it's much easier to use these. So if you have the Sears Video Arcade Intellivision, there is a plug in there and if you wanted to use the original, if you wanted to use a flashback controller, you would say, hey, why not just plug in the flashback controller right into there? You know, what's to stop me from doing that? Well, let's try that, and I'll show you why you can't do that. And this is why you need, that's why you need this adapter right here for that. Okay, so I have plugged in the Intellivision Flashback into the Super Video Arcade, but nothing works. So that is why you need the adapter. The adapter rewires it to work with this controller. So let's open up the one that I bought from Paul Nurmix. Okay. Plugged in this end into the flashback controller, and then I'm plugging the other end of Paul's adapter into the Super Video Arcade. And now let's see if it works. Look at that. That's why you use the adapter for the Sears Video Arcade. So now we're going to do the same thing with the other Intellivision. The other thing I wanted to point out with these flashback controller adapters, for the ones that are for the Intellivision 2 or the Sears Super Video Arcade, is just how long the cable is. It acts, when it's fully extended, it's 69 inches, so it acts as an extension cord for your system. So that's another bonus. Now the other adapters don't need to be that long. They're about a foot, maybe a foot and a half. But this one plugs directly into the system board, and then it just uses your controller that you attach here. Alright, for the original Intellivision, you can almost immediately see that the cable for the controller at the end goes underneath and there's no plug to unplug it. So really that's why you have to swap it out or insert this cable here for the flashback adapter in order to use the flashback controller, in order to plug this flashback controller in. That's what we want to do. And one of the reasons obviously for swapping these out is simply because these ones here are a little worn out and they're firing incorrectly. So when I push certain key combinations, it pushes other buttons that I didn't press, so it's sending incorrect signals. So that's why I want to swap this one here out on the left. The one on the right is okay, but I'm going to swap them both out so I can use the Intellivision Flashback controller adapters here. So in order to do that, you'll need two tools. You'll need a needle nose pliers, probably. You might, depending upon how tight the controller plug is. And you'll need a screwdriver just to unscrew all the screws in the back of the unit. So let's get started and let's do that. Carefully swing that back. Very carefully. The last screw right there. That's the last screw. So just set the screws aside. And try not to lose them. So we need to get in. We need to get in and unplug it right here. Unplug that one, and we need to unplug this one and replace it with the adapter. So let's do that. To give us a little more leeway, we're gonna have to take this plastic brace off. So let's do that. Probably could have got away without doing that, but okay. Let's go ahead and pull the motherboard, unplug the motherboard as well. See if that was it. Very carefully. You don't really need to pull it out. We're just going to pull it up a little. And hold that up while I pull this out. There we go. So one controller's out. Notice the orientation, the colors. The red pins are coming towards the top with the lighter pins or wires off to the right. And so if you follow that, look, it even says the upside. So it says upside right there. Let's try this again. Just lift it up a little bit. Throw it right in. The red pins again on the wires on the left, and the lighter wires on the right. And if we follow it around, sort of, that's how we'll do. Just kind of follow it around. Like that. And let's do the other side. Careful not to shake anything you don't want loose. Okay, that should be enough. Carefully pull that out. Just gingerly, slowly take it out. Whew. And it'd probably be a good idea to mark the controller that you had problems with and put a label on it as bad or whatever. And notice this one loops around this way. So we're going to follow that same sort of pattern. And again, the red pins this side up, red pins on the left. So let's do this again. I say pins, but it's the wires, that's what I mean. Very good. Then slide the motherboard back in. Make sure everything's snug. And follow. I want to follow the same sort of location. And on this one, it's underneath the power switch. But I don't know if we can go that way. Let's see. Yeah, it should be fine. Yank the other one out. Put that one underneath it, and then screw it back in. Pretty much the rest of this job here is just to button everything up and try it out with your Intellivision Flashback controllers. Alright, so there you have it. Got the flashback adapters installed. Now let's go try it out with the flashback controllers. Okay, so here's the Intellivision, the original Intellivision with the flashback adapters plugged in. I have Ultimate Pong here ready to go, but I'm going to plug in my flashback controller, which I purchased from @Games. And I'll try the left one first. And let's plug in the right one, the right side. There's no reason to not get these both going. And so this will be the first time, true test here, to see if this actually worked, all that work that I just did. I'm go ahead and plug in Ultimate Pong. And power on the unit. Push 1 to start. Hey, it's working. And let's see if I can control player 2. I gotta go to a 2-player game. Obviously I'll need to do more testing to make sure that all the buttons and everything work. But for now, I'm excited. I'm excited to get this working and installed and using on the Intellivision.